Today we finished our parapet roof sheathing. We also installed our drip edge and all of our tar paper. Nothing you had to relearn, and maybe just things you had to take more time with, like the cuts for all the vents going through the roof, both for your sheathing and your tar paper. There was some spots in the tar paper where like maybe there'd be like a little cut from your knife or something, but nothing that I learned. It's just something to point out that if you have a little cut, you can put mastic, roof membrane, and then mastic over it just to make sure no water goes in it.
Yeah, this paper that's new for us is a little thicker and more difficult to cut when you're trimming around the edges, so be careful.
Use a new blade. Maybe just pick different sides, like when you sheathe, just work on different pieces, because then you'll work twice as fast instead of trying to work on the same piece.
Yeah, and you won't be stepping on each other and getting in the way of each other. Same for the paper, roof paper. Put the first one down, then just split sides and work separately. Make it get done faster.
Today we're gonna need our drill, a 2 1/4 inch hole saw, a 4 1/8 inch hole saw for our sheathing for our vents. We're gonna need a pair of tin snips when we get ready to put in our drip edge and our HVAC. We're gonna need a nail gun to finish off our sheathing. We're gonna need a circular saw to make those cuts so our sheathing can fold down. And after we're all done with that, when we hop to our tar paper, we're gonna need our knife to make those cuts. You're gonna need your roller to spread out all the air bubbles, and a hammer and roofing nails to secure it down when you're done. Today we're gonna finish up our sheathing on our parapet roof, and after we're done with that, we're either gonna start rolling out our tar paper or go down and install our HVAC unit. But it depends how much time we have left. We should be able to get done with this with all our paper. Well, right now we just finished up this part of our slope. This is going to be the hardest part of your roof, only because you have to make a few cutouts for the holes. It's not too hard, it's just a little bit time consuming, but it's really simple. All you do is you'll find to cut out these holes, you're going to stick it where your OSB is going to go. Find the center of where your hole needs to be. So this would be 17 1/2. Come over and get the other cross measurement, which would be next to this piece. And that's about 1 1/2. So then you draw and exit those measurements, and you still have a little bit of wiggle room because the holes for the ceiling sheathing, they're a little bigger to allow for some wiggle room. And it's the same thing for these holes too. It's just except you're not going to pull a measurement from a piece of OSB. You're just going to pull it from the outside. So this one would be 6 1/2. This one would be 14 1/2. And then you'd hook it on your border and you'd measure out. So this would be at 43 1/2 and 14 1/2. And then you take those measurements on your piece of OSB and draw an X, and right in the middle is where you put your drill bit for your hole saw. I'm going old school, Edgar. Well, we just finished all of our sheathing for our final slope roof. Now we're just gonna go check all the nails, see our spacing, fill any nails in that we missed. We'll get our inspection, sweep and blow it off, and then we'll start laying out our tar paper. So right now we're cutting strips of OSB to put along our scupper side. And the reason that we have to build this up is if you look in the corner, without this, our drip edge wouldn't have a level surface to be nailed onto. So that's why we have to build the rest of the house up to make it level. Yeah, I just notched it out so I wouldn't have to come back and cut another piece.
And does this have to be for all sides or just for the two long sides?
Just for this side. Only this one.
Jasper, so what's going on?
Right now I'm going around and checking all our nails, making sure we got our 6 on the perimeter, 8 in the field, and making sure there's no nails sticking up at all. Because when you don't want that when you put your tar paper on there, they'll pop through and make a tear.
Drop it.
We are starting to install our drip edge. Our nail spacing is every 16 inches. We're overlapping 6 inches, I believe. Yeah, make sure you don't put too many nails in there. It's going to make it harder when you go into nailing your roofing paper. Yeah.
And you were asking about tin snips earlier, so do you have to cut a lot of tin for this?
No, you do not have to cut a lot of tin, but when we do our corners, you do a couple clips and wrap it around.
Right now, we're getting ready to install our first corner on our drip edge. All I'm gonna do is stick our pointed part facing out, and I'm gonna hang about 6 inches over that edge. And this is just an easy way to measure without having to cut. And where you see your first piece of drip edge overlapping this, I'm gonna just snip a little mark, and then I can cut it straight. And now I'm gonna cut a little triangle. Now, when you go to put it on,
How did that fit?
fit pretty good. So what we're doing is we're going to shoot the foam down in the bottom of this. One, this is going to help hold it in place, and two, it's going to act like a vapor barrier or a seal to help keep out the moisture or anything that goes in there to drop down into our ceiling. So we're kind of experimenting with this right now and see how this works.
We're starting to roll out our paper. You'll notice this is a different type than we've used in the past. But yeah, we're just going to start rolling them out, cutting them. We'll be making sure to overlap. Do you know how much we're supposed to overlap for this stuff? Or do you think it's probably like the width of this? 6? So we overlap 6 inches. So the way I do this so that I don't get bubbles is I lay it out all straight. I mark my 6 inches on the previous one. I line it up, make sure it's going on straight. Then I do 1/2 at a time. And as I'm peeling it, I'm making sure that it's laying flat so that I don't have any air bubbles to push out. Yeah, and once the first side's on, I'll just go to the next side and make sure when it lays down, it's laying down flat and not wrinkled. It went great up here. We just finished nailing everything off. We got 6 minimum. We have more than 6 in the field on the perimeter, but it's 6 in the perimeter and 8 in the field. It looks good. There's no bubbles. Yeah, I think we should be ready to paint soon. But mastic first and then paint.
Today we finished off sheathing our slope roof, and after that we went on and put our tar paper. When you put your tar paper on, we're gonna start in the middle where the scupper is. We just haven't cut it out, and then we're gonna, on each side, we're gonna stack our rolls on top of each other and overlap it 6 inches. So when water hits, it'll all roll down that way, and it's not gonna roll into a seam. We're gonna put nails 6 inches on the perimeter and 8 to 6 in the field. I think it's closer to 6. That's what we did to be safe. It gets a little bit tricky when you start cutting these out, but what I would recommend is leaving some of your tar paper sticking up like this, because it's just less roofing membrane and mastic you have to use. So, other than that, basically the same thing we've done, just a little bit more tricky with these. It's a different type of paper. It's a little bit thicker and it's harder to cut. So I'd use a brand new razor blade so it just slices through and you don't have to force it and cut yourself. But other than that, there's really nothing new. Should go pretty quick. Split up the work between you and your partner. Know each other's strengths.
So what I'm looking for is a couple things I noticed is they nailed, you want to stay close to this edge, and that just keeps it from peeling up. So if you look at this other side, they're back away from a little bit, and what can happen is that can peel back up. So we want to get a nail a little bit closer to that edge just to help hold that edge down. We did, so they started out with their center, and then started out from and worked their way out to the edges. So that way we have our water flowing down where we need to. Looks pretty good. They got it nailed off around the edge. Not too shabby. They got a little more than, so you only have to do 8. They got their heads up a little high and a little crooked, so we'll have them pound those down a little bit. But looks pretty good. Did have one right there on the seam. We'll have to shoot another one. You don't want to get that close to the edge because that could be torn up, and then you'll have a big pocket right there. So we'll have them correct that. We did put some expanded foam on inside of our cups here, and it worked out pretty well. So what this is going to prevent, ooh, that shocked me. What this is going to prevent is water from seeping down, getting inside the ceiling, and it kind of acts like insulation there. So we'll still be able to put our shackle on there, but that's going to help hold that securely to our house now.